Imagine a world where the primary measure of success is not what you possess, but how much you are possessed by what you own. We live in an era of unprecedented consumption, where we are bombarded with images of a life that seems just out of reach. A life where happiness is sold as a destination that requires a certain zip code, a specific brand of car, and a bank account with 7 figures. But there is a profound paradox at the heart of modern success. The more we chase after the external markers of wealth, the more we often find ourselves enslaved to the very things we thought would set us free. This is the story of a man who decided to stop running. A man who realized that his desires were not a ladder to the top, but a cage that kept him in a state of perpetual anxiety and spiritual poverty. He discovered that by letting go of his desires, he did not lose his path. He found a more effective and resilient one. He realized that the ultimate secret to becoming a millionaire was not found in the frantic accumulation of assets, but in the radical accumulation of financial control and internal clarity. This transition from a life of frantic chasing to a life of strategic stillness is what defines a true stoic investment strategy, prioritizing the health of your mind over the noise of the market. To build a genuine wealth mindset, one must establish a foundation of self-sufficiency and rational decision-making, transforming the relationship with capital from one of desperate attachment to one of powerful stewardship. We are not just talking about money. We are talking about the mental architecture required to manage millions without letting those millions manage you. The core problem we face today is that our desires are often not our own. They are the products of an industry designed to keep us wanting. When your happiness depends on the next purchase or the next market surge, you are giving away your power to forces that do not care about your well-being. To become truly wealthy, you must first become truly free from the need for more, moving away from the belief that wealth is a collection of objects and toward the understanding that wealth is a state of autonomy. To understand how letting go of desire leads to massive wealth, we must look at a story of intense conflict and eventual transformation that mirrors the struggles of many modern investors. Consider the life of a high-flying financier who reached the absolute peak of the mountain before he was 30. He was the embodiment of the dream, having built several successful firms and reaching the status of a millionaire while surrounded by every luxury money could buy. On the outside, he was a king, but on the inside, he was a captive of his own expectations. He was constantly looking for the next surge in growth, the next round of funding, and the next piece of validation from a public he did not even respect. Every time the market experienced even a hint of market volatility, his entire world would shake. Despite his millions, he felt like he was one bad day away from ruin, a feeling that kept him in a state of constant, low-grade terror. He spent his nights checking international markets, his mind consumed by a frantic need for capital preservation, not because he needed the money for survival, but because he needed it to maintain the facade of his identity. This total lack of emotional discipline made him a reactive investor. He would sell in a panic during every dip and buy in a frenzy during every peak, chasing the ghosts of his own desires and believing that if he could just double his net worth one more time, the anxiety would finally stop. But the bar simply moved higher, and the peace he sought remained elusive. The turning point came during a massive professional failure, a moment where a combination of bad timing and aggressive over-leveraging caused him to lose a significant portion of his wealth in a single quarter. Sitting in a silent office with the weight of his losses pressing down on him, he was forced to stop. For the first time in a decade, he could not run, and he could not buy his way out of the feeling of inadequacy. In that silence, he began to read the works of the ancient teachers, realizing a profound truth that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. He had felt this same crushing anxiety even when his bank account was at its highest point, because his happiness was anchored in things that were fundamentally not up to him. He realized that his desires were the true source of his poverty, not the fluctuating numbers on a screen. He made a radical choice to let go of the desire to be seen as successful, moved into a modest apartment, and stripped his life down to the essentials of health and meaningful work. He focused on his own financial control and stopped caring about the opinions of those who only valued him for his assets. As his desperate need for money disappeared, his ability to generate it increased exponentially. Because he no longer cared about the outcome, he was able to make decisions that were perfectly rational. He stopped chasing trends and started investing in value, becoming a millionaire again, but this time as a free man who could sleep through any storm. You have likely felt this same anxiety when looking at your own bank account, wondering if you are doing enough or if you have enough. This story is a reminder that the greatest obstacle to your wealth is not the market, but the desires that cloud your judgment and drain your resolve. To resolve the tension between our natural desires and our need for financial stability, we must turn to the core Stoic principles that have guided the wise for over 2,000 years. Epictetus provided the exact framework we need for modern portfolio management through the concept of the dichotomy of control. This is the ultimate foundation for any successful long-term investing strategy. In this view, the world is divided into things which are up to us and things which are not up to us. Your effort, your research, your decision to live below your means, and your reaction to a sudden loss are entirely within your control. However, the direction of the global economy and the final value of your accounts on any given day are ultimately outside your control. The wise person realizes that placing happiness in the second category is a form of madness, as it makes you a hostage to fortune. Instead, the focus is all on the first category, creating an internal fortress of reason that no market crash can breach. Consider the analogy of the archer, where a stoic investor is like an archer preparing for a shot. The archer chooses the finest bow, feathers his arrows with care, and trains his muscles for years. He waits for the wind to die down and aims with total focus, representing his internal process of financial control. But the very moment the arrow leaves the string, it is no longer up to him. A bird might fly into its path, or a sudden gust of wind might push it aside. The archer finds his satisfaction in the act of aiming correctly, not in the result of hitting the target. If the arrow misses despite his perfect aim, he remains at peace because he knows he did everything in his power. In the world of finance, if you conduct your due diligence and the market crashes regardless, you can sleep like a baby because you did not tie your happiness to a result you cannot command, but to the quality of your own choices. This is the secret to surviving a loss, realizing that the money was a preferred indifferent, something that is better to have than not, but which is not essential for your character. Seneca used to practice poverty days to remind himself that losing his wealth would not destroy his soul. He would ask himself, is this the condition that I feared? By confronting the worst-case scenario voluntarily, he stripped it of its power. If you focus on your internal control, write indifferent in the comments right now. This simple act of commitment is the beginning of your transformation into a master of your own destiny. By adopting this philosophy, you build a portfolio that can resist both the bulls and the bears, because you realize that although you cannot control the wind, you can always adjust the sails of your portfolio management. Implementing this philosophy requires a practical framework for your daily life. It begins with a fundamental audit of your desires to identify which ones are genuinely your own, and which ones have been programmed into you by a system that thrives on your dissatisfaction. We must learn how to stop impulse spending by addressing the root cause, the search for external validation through possessions. Most of our non-essential spending is an attempt to signal to others that we are successful, but the Stoic principles teach that true worth cannot be bought. This leads to the creation of what we call a Stoic budget, which is not about deprivation, but about the elimination of the ego spend. You look at every transaction and ask, am I buying this for my needs, or am I buying this for someone else's opinion? By ruthlessly cutting out the ego spend, you suddenly find yourself with a massive surplus of capital that can be deployed into the market with a clear and focused mind. This is the first step in building wealth quietly. While others are busy displaying the appearance of wealth, you are busy accumulating the reality of it. The second step is the practice of voluntary hardship, where you set aside several days every month to live on the simplest food and wear the roughest clothes. When you realize through direct experience that you can be perfectly happy with very little, you lose the paralyzing fear of going broke. This fear is what causes most investors to fail, as they cannot handle market volatility because they are terrified of losing the lifestyle they have become addicted to. But if you have practiced living without that lifestyle, the market has no power over your emotions. You can hold your positions for decades while others are selling in a panic, allowing the power of compounding to work its magic. Third, you must adopt a strategy of radical simplicity in your portfolio management. Instead of chasing the latest speculative trends, you focus on the fundamentals of value and long-term growth. You invest in assets that have intrinsic worth and you let them grow in the background. You do not check your accounts every day, and you do not read the sensationalist headlines designed to trigger your fight-or-flight response. You live your life as if the money is already gone, focusing instead on the work and the character right in front of you. This is how you master long-term investing. You become the silent mentor of your own future, moving with a calm that others find baffling. The journey toward $3 million or any other major financial milestone begins when you realize that time is your most precious asset. Most people trade their time for money, and then trade that money for desires that only lead to the need for more money. It is a cycle of exhaustion. The man who let go of his desires broke this cycle by valuing his time above his status. He understood that every unnecessary expense was hours or days of his life that he would never get back. By adopting a wealth mindset, he learned to buy back his freedom. He recognized that true financial control is not about having the power to buy anything, but the power to say no to anything that does not serve his purpose. This is the essence of building wealth quietly. It is a process of internal expansion rather than external inflation. As you move through your financial journey, you must cultivate the emotional discipline to ignore the highlight reels of others. The digital age has amplified the noise of desire, creating a constant pressure to compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. But the Stoic path is one of individual integrity. You are not competing with the market. You are competing with your own impulses. You are the master of your own portfolio management, and your only objective is to fulfill your duties with excellence and reason. When you look at the landscape of modern finance, it is easy to get lost in the market volatility and the endless stream of expert opinions. But if you ground yourself in Stoic principles, you find that most of that noise is irrelevant to your success. Your success is built on the choices you make when no one is watching. It is built on the discipline to maintain a Stoic budget and the wisdom to prioritize long-term investing over short-term gratification. You become like a rock in the middle of a rushing river. The water flows all around you, but you remain unmoved. This stability is what allows you to see value where others see chaos. It is what allows you to remain patient when others are rushing to ruin. By letting go of the desire for immediate results, you align yourself with the natural laws of growth. You realize that wealth is not a sprint. It is a marathon of character. Every time you choose to invest in your future rather than consume in your present, you are strengthening your internal fortress. You are becoming a person who is worthy of great wealth because you are no longer controlled by the fear of losing it. This is the true definition of a millionaire. Someone whose value is measured in terms of their freedom and their peace of mind. To maintain this state of wealth, you must commit to the ongoing practice of emotional discipline. The market will tempt you with greed during the booms and with fear during the crashes. It will try to convince you that you are missing out on the next big thing, or that the world is coming to an end. But you have the tools to resist. You have the pre-mortem to prepare for the worst, the stoic budget to protect your surplus, and the dichotomy of control to guard your peace. You are no longer a leaf blown by the wind. You are the mountain that stands unmoved. This is the difference between a millionaire who is a slave to his money and a millionaire who is a master of his life. One is constantly looking over his shoulder, terrified of losing what he has worked so hard for. The other is looking straight ahead, confident that his true wealth can never be lost. Which one do you want to be? The path of the silent mentor is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to genuine security and lasting fulfillment. It requires you to be honest with yourself about your motivations and to be disciplined in your actions. It requires you to prioritize your internal development over your external display. But the rewards are beyond measure. You will find that as you let go of the noise, the signal becomes louder. You will find that as you let go of the trivial, the essential becomes clearer. You will find that as you let go of the desire for more, you gain the capacity for everything. The man in our story did not achieve his status by working harder or by taking bigger risks. He achieved it by becoming a different kind of person. He became someone who could not be manipulated by his own cravings. He became someone who could see value where others saw nothing. He became someone who was already content. This is the ultimate competitive advantage in the world of finances. While everyone else is fighting over the crumbs of the banquet, you are already satisfied. While everyone else is reacting to the market volatility, you are following your plan. While everyone else is chasing the appearance of success, you are building the foundation of it. This is how you win, not by playing their game, but by playing your own. Not by accumulating more desires, but by mastering the ones you already have. This is the journey of a lifetime, and it starts with the decision you make today. It starts with the realization that your wealth is not in your pocket, but in your mind. It starts with the courage to let go of everything that is not truly yours. Take this wisdom and make it your own. Use it to build a life that is rich in every sense of the word. Use it to create a legacy of peace, resilience, and true abundance. The journey is yours to take, and the time is now. As this exploration of the mind and money continues, I want you to remember that the greatest wealth you can possess is the ability to live a life on your own terms, free from the dictates of desire and the fear of loss. The billionaire and the beggar are both subject to the same laws of nature, but the one who understands these laws is the one who is truly free. You have the power to choose your own path and to define your own success. You have the power to let go of the desires that have been holding you back and to embrace the freedom that has always been yours. This is the promise of Stoicism applied to finances. It is not just a way to get rich. It is a way to live well. It is a way to be a master in a world of slaves. It is a way to find the millionaire within. The choice is yours, and the power is in your hands. Start walking the path of the silent mentor today and discover the wealth that no market crash can ever take from you. True freedom is waiting for you, not in the future when you have more money, but right now, in the moment you decide that what you have is enough. Be still, be focused, and be free. The system wants you poor. Stoicism makes you free. Subscribe to Money and Stoicism to master your finances and your mind. Like this video if you seek true freedom.